I crouched at the entrance of my ex-boyfriend's company, holding his child in my arms while selling grilled sausages. He opened his mouth as if to speak, then stopped, staring at me in stunned silence. Child? Yours. 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 I shoved the baby into his arms, repeating the words 3 times for emphasis. Chloe, you really are something else, he ground out between clenched teeth. Inside the cafe, Jaden's expression was far from pleasant. Yet when his gaze shifted to Annie, there was a tenderness in his eyes that no one could possibly fake. I let out a quiet breath of relief. Annie was our child, mine and Jaden's. To be precise, she was born without his knowledge. Originally, I had no intention of ever telling him. But now, I had no choice. Crushed by the weight of life, I could only turn to Jaden for help. When my best friend Emma gave me Jaden's work address, my heart was filled with unease. A year ago, disaster struck my family, leaving me buried under a 7-figure debt. I threw myself into work, treating the company as my home. I bowed and scraped before my superiors, taking on more than half the workload of every project. I thought promotion and a salary raise were just around the corner. Instead, an unexpected scandal erupted. My boss handed me a check and asked me to take the fall for him, to serve his prison sentence in his place. The string of zeros on that check was dizzying, enough to wipe out all my debt in one stroke. If I had been alone in this world, I might have wavered. But the moment I thought of Annie's sweet voice calling me Mommy every night when I came home, my resolve hardened. I could not become a stain on her life. With one swift motion, I tore the check in half and walked away without looking back, ignoring the rage burning in my boss's eyes. Chloe, don't you dare act ungrateful. I offered you 3 years of peace for that money, and you still dare show me attitude. His greasy voice thundered behind me in impotent fury. As I packed my things and prepared to leave the company, I happened to see him being handcuffed and shoved into a police car. That venomous glare he cast at me that day haunted my dreams for a long time, jolting me awake in cold sweats. A seasoned boss like him, even behind bars, would always have ways to seek revenge. One after another, the companies I sent my resume to called me back with the same thinly veiled rejection. Your qualifications are outstanding, but, due to some private considerations, we're unable to offer you a position. I put away the CPA certificate I had spent 3 years earning, deleted my carefully polished resume, and spent the last of my savings on a sausage cart. Pinching Annie's chubby little cheeks, I forced a cheerful tone. Mommy's going to sell sausages. Does Annie like having this kind of mommy? Annie lifted her round little face and planted a loud kiss on my cheek. Annie's mommy is the best mommy in the whole wide world. Mommy will always be Annie's superhero. Day by day, life passed in quiet monotony, so steady I began to believe I could hold up the sky for Annie all by myself. If not for that day at the hospital, when I couldn't afford Annie's medical bills and had to beg desperately for help, I might never have thought of Jaden again. The rain that night was torrential, so heavy I couldn't tell whether my face was wet from the downpour or from my own tears. It was only a small bout of pneumonia, yet it shattered my life into pieces. I dared not imagine what I would do if it had been something more serious. From Emma's words, I learned that Jaden was now a successful man. With a father like him, Annie would never have to suffer alongside me again. I couldn't bring myself to act like those reckless heroines in novels. As long as Annie had a better future, my pride meant nothing. I camped out with my sausage cart beneath Jaden's company for an entire week before finally catching him as he returned from a business trip. There was no such thing as a fated reunion, only a long-planned encounter. Mommy, who's that uncle? Annie stretched out her little hands, waving them before my face. My drifting thoughts snapped back into focus. I didn't dare meet Jaden's eyes. Sharp as he was, he would surely see through the calculation hidden in mine. Adults never needed to spell things out. Silence itself was enough. I'm your daddy. Jaden broke the awkward silence with a smile at Annie, and for a fleeting moment, I saw again the boy who once ran toward me with all his heart. But smiles like that would never again be meant for me. If you're free this weekend, I can take Annie and you for a DNA test. If you're willing to entrust her future to me. My untimely words shattered what little warmth had begun to take shape. Jaden's face darkened instantly. I couldn't tell what had provoked his anger. No need. I believe you. His tone was heavy, polite, and distant. Still, it would be better to do it, just so there are no doubts in the future. It might hurt our relationship if suspicions arise later. Besides, your mother. He frowned, and I dared not press further. Fine. Saturday morning at the hospital. This time, he didn't refuse. I pointed politely toward the sausage cart outside. Well then, if there's nothing else, I won't keep you. The crowd gets big after work, and I need to set up my stall. I picked Annie up and turned to leave. From behind me, Jaden's voice rang out. Chloe, is this how you raise a child? Dragging her to your stall every day? Do you really think that's a good environment for her to grow up in? You're living like this, and you never thought about My vision blurred, my mind spinning into chaos. Don't you talk about mommy. Mommy is the best. You're the bad daddy. Annie buried her little face against me and shouted at him. Mist filled my eyes, and I snapped back with defiance. If I don't live like this, how else do I feed us? Am I supposed to rely on you? Do you expect me to beg for your pity, for you to take responsibility just because of what we once had? Jaden's cold reply pierced straight into my chest. Chloe, you're really that selfish? You left without a word, had a child without telling me, what exactly am I to you? Now you show up, is it because you want to rekindle the past, or just to toy with me all over again? Did you overestimate yourself, or do you just think I'm a fool? Each word was like an invisible arrow, tearing me apart. But I didn't dare look back. I pushed open the door. Sunlight spilled into the dark cafe. Stepping into the light, I gripped the cart and lifted my chin with every step. As long as I kept my head raised, the tears would never fall. My mother called me that evening, a rare occurrence. Her health had been poor for years, and the family debt weighed on her daily. That was why, ever since Annie's birth, I had raised her entirely on my own. On the other end of the line, my mother stumbled over her words, circling aimlessly around before asking how I had been lately. I was about to head out to set up my stall, too busy to chat, but I could hear the hidden meaning in my mother's words. So I asked directly, Mom, just say it. What is it you really want to tell me? It's nothing much. It's just, you're not that young anymore. Raising Annie alone all these years has been hard. Don't be upset with me for being blunt, but it's not easy to find someone when you're bringing a child along. You can't afford to be too picky. If someone decent comes along, you should at least give it a chance. Not long ago, your Aunt Jenny's neighbor's son got divorced. He has a little boy and his circumstances are pretty similar to yours. They said it'd be good to arrange a meeting between you two. I've already seen him. He's a bit older than you, but he's honest, so I agreed on your behalf. You'll meet this Saturday, I'll send you the address later. My heart was a tangled mess, but under my mother's pleading, I agreed to meet him. The restaurant was close to the hospital, which meant I could take Annie along. If Annie's future was secured, then it was time for me to let go of the past and try to embrace something new. A notification chimed on my phone. It was a friend request from Jaden. I had no idea how he got my contact, but his message in the remarks box was formal and businesslike. Hello, this is Jaden. Please accept my friend request. I clicked accept. Moments later, a transfer notification appeared on my screen. 100,000 yuan. I accepted it. I knew the money was for Annie. There was no point pretending to be lofty and refusing it. Besides, I desperately needed the money. At the top of the screen, the words, "The other party is typing," flashed a few times before disappearing altogether. I stared at the empty chat box, an ache spreading through my chest. 3 years ago, I had disappeared without a word. Even now, when I still couldn't let Jaden go, I had no right to expect anything more. Perhaps he truly hated me. After all, I had vanished inexplicably, only to reappear years later and suddenly shove a child into his arms. But in the marriage market, men always had the advantage. Even a divorced, middle-aged man with a belly and a child was more sought after than a single woman my age with no romantic experience. With Jaden's looks and wealth, a child's sudden appearance wouldn't hinder his charm with women. Smiling bitterly, I glanced at the heavily filtered photos my mother had sent of the blind date candidate and shook my head helplessly. Sometimes, settling was the only way life went on. Saturday dawned bright and clear, a perfect day. I rode my scooter with Annie to the hospital, only to find Jaden leaning against his car, smoking. The moment he spotted me, he hurriedly crushed the cigarette, waved the smoke away, and hastily sprayed cologne over himself. His flustered, clumsy movements made me want to laugh. "I don't usually smoke," he blurted. "Don't worry. I won't do it again." Then, as if afraid I wouldn't believe him, he added another line that only made things worse. "Actually, I never smoked before either." Listening to his explanation, my mind drifted back to the past. Jaden had never liked smoking. But the first time he tried, it was in front of me. Back then, his family was poor, and his pride was strong. I told him not to waste money on gifts, yet he always pressed his head against my shoulder and murmured, "Other girls get gifts from their boyfriends. My girlfriend deserves the same." I watched him run himself ragged, delivering takeout, tutoring, waiting tables. His once smooth face soon bore the rough shadow of stubble. But he never let his struggles taint the way he treated me. One day, he was so exhausted that he foolishly pulled out a cigarette and asked, "Chloe, they say smoking helps with stress and fatigue. If I smoke, maybe I won't feel so tired. Then I can deliver more orders and buy you a prettier necklace." The smoke had choked me until I couldn't breathe. Just like now, he had frantically stubbed out the cigarette and apologized softly, "Chloe doesn't like the smell. I'll never smoke again." I had wrapped my arms around him and looked up into his eyes with utter seriousness. Jaden, I don't want necklaces or expensive gifts. All I want is a future with you. The moonlight had been beautiful that night, but nothing compared to the smile on Jaden's face. Now, gazing at the more mature man before me, I muttered awkwardly, it's fine. Just don't smoke in front of Annie. Do whatever you want at other times. That day, Jaden wore a trench coat that made his figure look even taller and sharper. I had once bought him several trench coats, teasing, Jaden, I love how you look in a trench coat. Every autumn from now on, you have to wear the ones I bought you. Staring at the coat now, I told myself it was just a coincidence, that he hadn't worn it today because of that silly promise from years ago. Yet Jaden seemed to read my thoughts. This coat, you bought it back then. Maybe you don't remember. I just happened to see it today, so I put it on. There was a bitter smile tugging at his lips, and it made my chest ache. I strode ahead quickly, unwilling to let him see the tears pricking at the corners of my eyes. I'd forgotten long ago. See? Adults love to say the opposite of what they mean. When we left the hospital, Jaden suggested we grab a meal together. I shook my head and replied openly, I already have a blind date at noon. Next time, I'll treat you. His smile froze, and I couldn't read his expression. Fine. I wish you happiness. He said the words slowly and heavily, then climbed into his car as if sulking, rolled up the window, and ignored me completely. I knew he must be angry. After all, he was Annie's father, and here I was looking for another man to take his place. I had to admit, it was a low blow. Still, I couldn't help but chuckle to myself, shaking my head as I watched his car disappear down the road. In the elegant restaurant, I spotted my blind date sitting by the window. If he hadn't told me what he'd be wearing, I would never have recognized him from the photos. It was, indeed, a case of false advertising. I greeted him politely, and he responded just as courteously. Perhaps I shouldn't judge by appearances alone. On the surface, he seemed like a genuinely honest man. Annie happily greeted the little boy sitting opposite her, only to be met with a sharp, venomous word, bitch. Her laughter froze. My date patted the boy's shoulder and offered me an apology. Sorry about that. I haven't disciplined him enough. He's a bit mischievous, but boys are like that, it's normal for them to be rowdy. Suppressing my irritation, I forced a gentle tone as I spoke to the boy. It's not nice to call people names. Say sorry to Annie, and we'll let it go. But instead of making the boy apologize, my date's expression darkened in displeasure. It's nothing big, kids say dumb things sometimes. You're taking this too seriously. Miss Chloe, today we're here to discuss marriage timing and the bride price. Let's not make a scene. What I mean is, you've had a child, you're not an innocent young girl anymore. Forget about a hefty bride price. We're not here for your dowry, but you must treat my son well. He's a boy, the apple of our family. Fix a wedding date early and settle down. Look at you, real age 26, faux 27, rounded up to 28, almost 30. Shouldn't you be more eager to get married than I am? The supposedly honest man prattled on, his mercantile tone making me queasy. Mr. Jones, you misunderstand. I don't think we're a good match. It's better to call this off. I stood to leave, but a small hand grabbed my sleeve. You bitch, just like your mother, a bitch. The little boy kept spewing insults. There was no innocence in that childlike face, only malice. Mr. Jones, perhaps your home education needs work. I suggest you cultivate yourself before you worry about marriage and family. I ripped my arm free. Turning, I felt a sudden splash of cold on my back. Lemonade had been hurled across my blouse. The blind date man's stream of curses had drawn everyone's attention. Anger surged in me. I was about to lash back, when the abuse behind me stopped. Who are you? How dare you splash me? By the time I registered, Jaden had draped his trench coat over my shoulders. I'm Miss Chloe's friend. If you keep harassing her, I won't hesitate to call the police. What followed was chaos. I hardly remember how we got out of the restaurant. It wasn't until I was sitting on Jaden's sofa that my mind began to clear. You were in such a hurry to marry? With a guy like that? He asked, sipping water from across the room. I'm fine. It's just family pressure, I answered. What about the man you were going to marry before? Why didn't it work out? I looked up at him, surprised. He knew, he actually knew. We were supposed to get married, but at the premarital check they found I was pregnant. That put an end to it. I clutched my fist until my nails bit into my palm, trying to stop my whole body from trembling. I see. He gave me a teasing look and fell silent for a while before speaking again. Since your wedding fell apart because of me, I don't mind making amends. Would you consider marrying me? When I said nothing, he added, there are many advantages to marrying me. You won't have to face situations like today, we know each other's backgrounds, and Annie could have a healthy environment to grow up in. And, truth be told, I've never been able to forget you. Still, never mind. I interrupted him aloud. The hope that had lit his eyes died instantly, replaced by a colder distance. I kept my head down, unable to see his expression. If the only reasons to marry were compensation or convenience, I'd rather the man be someone else. And yet his contradictory behavior, telling me not to cling to illusions one day, then deliberately teasing me the next, only left me more embarrassed. I also remembered, all too clearly, what he'd said at a reunion 2 years ago. I had been hiding in the crowd, watching him. He'd been a little drunk, and his college roommate joked, "You've been waiting for her for so many years, haven't you thought of starting anew?" He rubbed his temple and grimaced, "Nonsense. I've moved on. And if she came back asking to reconcile someday, would you take her?" "Yes, why not? I'll take her, then make her taste my pain." I didn't want to hear the rest. You see, his vow to marry me was born out of a desire to punish me for leaving without explanation. A month after I rejected Jaden's proposal, he stopped contacting me completely. I stared at the medical test report on the table and hesitated. Should I tell Jaden about it? His words that day in the cafe kept echoing in my head, forcing me to reconsider my career plans. Selling sausages couldn't be a forever solution. Just as I began to look at other industries, my junior James called. "Senior, a few classmates and I just started a small company. We need a finance director. Would you consider it?" He excitedly described the company's plans. His youthful enthusiasm swept through the receiver and stirred something in my long-dimmed heart. I didn't hesitate, I accepted on the spot. "Fantastic, Senior. It's settled then. Are you free tonight? A few of us want to meet and talk about the company's future." After I hung up, I bounced around the sofa with excitement. Even after so much hardship, a real opportunity like this made my pulse race. That evening I arrived at the venue James had set. When I entered the private room, the huge space held only James. "Where are the other partners?" I asked. "They were held up by something at the company. They couldn't leave, so they sent me as their representative. I hope you don't mind." He smiled sheepishly, 2 small canine teeth showed, and he still had that boyish charm. My phone rang at a bad moment. It was Jaden. "Where are you?" "I'll come pick up the test results." "I'm at a company gathering. I'll drop it off after it ends." I stepped out into the corridor and lowered my voice to talk to Jaden. "Again with a blind date?" The chill in his tone made me flinch. "No. Senior, what would you like to order?" James peered from behind the private room door, waving a menu and motioning for me to pick. "You choose. I'll be right back." No sooner had I said that than I glanced down. Jaden had already hung up. Strange. Returning to the room, the table was piled with delicious dishes. "Senior, I remember you don't like spicy food, so I ordered milder dishes. I hope they suit your taste." James propped his head on his hand and stared at me expectantly, like a little dog seeking praise. I nodded, feeling awkward. The whole meal felt oddly tense. "Aren't you going to talk to me about the company?" I tried to break the mood. "Actually, I invited you tonight for my own reasons." "Senior, do you think there's a chance?" Cough, 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 cough. A sip of lemonade caught in my throat and made me choke. "Of course, we can be great partners," I cut in, smiling openly though my heart was pounding. "So awkward, don't say it out loud. We'll keep running into each other, give him an out." I prayed silently. "Senior, I like you. Could you at least consider me?" "Don't be ridiculous. My child is already 2 years old." "But Senior, you're single now, aren't you? Having a child doesn't stop you from dating." That meal, in the end, was impossible to finish. When I walked out of the private room, James's eyes were red. To an outsider, it might have looked as if I had wronged him somehow. "Senior, please think it over again. I was impulsive today. But on Monday, you'll still come to work, right?" Then let me walk you home." "No need." Before I could finish, Jaden appeared, striding toward us against the light. He naturally took my bag from me and gave James a polite nod. James's eyes widened, his words stumbling out in shock. "Senior, weren't you two, broken up?" "How, why?" Jaden smiled warmly, though the look he cast James held a trace of frost. "Sorry, I'm late. Junior, I came to pick up my girlfriend." As he spoke, Jaden shot me a discreet look. I caught on immediately and hurried to play along. Yes, it's getting late. Junior, you should head home first." James left in a rush, as though fleeing from Jaden. Once he was gone, I snatched my bag back from Jaden's shoulder and tried to joke lightly. "Seems like Junior's a little afraid of you. Anyone watching might think you two have a feud, ha ha, ha." The more I spoke, the more awkward it felt, until I finally gave up and fell silent. After a long while, Jaden muttered, "We do have a feud. We even fought once." When I handed him the test report, he barely glanced at it before crumpling it into a ball and shoving it into his pocket. "Can I come upstairs for a while? I mean, to see Annie." Jaden lowered his head, lost in thought. I gripped my bag strap tightly, answering stiffly. Two people who had once been inseparable, how had we come to this? A wry smile tugged at my lips. The iron gate of the old apartment block screeched as it opened, the dim stairwell light flickering on and off. As I opened my door, Jaden spoke. Actually, what I really wanted was to see how you've been these past years. From the looks of it, a complete mess. In the darkness, I couldn't see his face, nor hear the true emotion in his voice. But everything that had happened recently left me drained, on the verge of breaking down. I couldn't hold it in anymore. Leaning against the shoe cabinet, I collapsed, spilling my frustration like a tantrum. Yes, my life is awful. You can see it with your own eyes. Satisfied now? Do you want to say I finally got what I deserved? Does seeing me this pathetic make you realize you don't need marriage as a way to take revenge, because my life is already in shambles? Look at this sofa. I bought it secondhand and scrubbed it for hours just to restore its color. This fridge is peeling and has been repaired countless times, but I can't bear to throw it away. All of this, and that, and those, every single thing scavenged from the market. I'm broke, buried in debt. I'm already like this, and you still can't leave me alone. I hurled my bag at Jaden with all my strength. Every ounce of grievance in my heart exploded. Curling into myself on the floor, I buried my head in my arms. I don't know how long it took before I calmed down. God, what did I just do? How humiliating. Does he think I'm insane? But, losing it like that actually felt good. Like I finally let the poison out. I muttered silently to myself, still too ashamed to lift my head and face him. Just then, my phone rang. It was my mother. I cleared my throat, trying to make my voice sound normal. Oh, my precious girl. How could you get into an argument on a blind date? Now that man is going around smearing you, saying unspeakable things. I don't know what you'll do in the future. Her voice boomed through the small living room. Panicked, I looked down and realized I'd accidentally pressed speaker when answering. A headache pounded at my temples as her nagging words pulled me into a suffocating abyss. At some point, Jaden picked up my phone. I heard his calm voice speaking gently into the receiver. Hello, Auntie. This is Jaden. There was a long silence on the other end. Then my mother's voice came back, choked with tears. All right. I understand. As the call ended with a hollow beep, bitterness welled up inside me. Get up, the floor is cold. Jaden extended his hand to me, just as he had the first time we met. Back then, I had fainted from skipping breakfast before a physical exam, and he had reached down in the same way. This time, I hesitated before choosing to push myself up on my own. Must you stay so distant? Jaden turned away, rummaging through his bag. Here, your ID card, your household registry. Find some time and we'll get a non-blood relationship certificate. What I mean is, I was serious that day. As long as you agree, I'm ready anytime. In the dim light, I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Why? Why do you want to marry me? I busied myself straightening the mess I'd made in my outburst, pretending indifference. Chloe, are you really that dense? What other reason is there to marry? I fucking love you. I love you so much it's driving me crazy. I admit I was childish, stubborn. That day in the cafe, I was being petty. You dumped me for 3 years, can't I even vent with a few words? I regretted it the moment they left my mouth. At that reunion, when you showed up, wasn't that? After a long pause, he added in a small, broken voice, I was wrong. Looking at his earnest face, I realized he wasn't joking. From the bookshelf, I pulled out a battered tin box and dumped out a pile of IOUs. These are all debt slips, 7 figures worth. I don't know when I'll ever pay them off. Are you sure you still want to marry me? I rubbed my palms nervously, awaiting his verdict. He rummaged through his bag again and pulled out 2 cards. This one is my salary card. And this one, I saved as a marriage fund after graduation. Both are yours. Just, don't reject me again, please. A laugh burst out of me, but tears came with it. Jaden, you really are such a fool. Out of breath, I pushed and shoved him toward the door, stuffing everything back into his bag. Let's both calm down first. The door slammed shut behind him. Through the peephole, I saw that he was gone. Though the iron door separated us, my emotions spun out of control. Reason urged me to retreat, but my heart cried out for me to face it. And yet, I always chose to bow to reality. The next morning, with dark circles under my eyes, I stepped outside, only to find Jaden crouched at my door, grinning foolishly. You didn't leave last night? I froze on the spot, unsure if he was insane or if I was hallucinating. I was afraid you might suddenly want to marry me in the morning and wouldn't be able to find me. So, I just sat here all night. He ran a hand through his messy hair, the faint stubble on his jaw making him look worn and weary. Could you give me a little time to process everything that's happened? I softened, unable to bear the sight of him like this. Jaden nodded obediently, shoved the household registry into my hand, and slipped away without looking back. Call me anytime once you've decided. His voice was light, cheerful, just like years ago. At that moment, Emma's call came in. Her voice was tentative. Sweetie, how are things with Jaden now? I told her the truth. What? A proposal? And what do you think? Why are you hesitating, darling? Happiness is right in front of you, why be stubborn now? But I'm so confused. Every time I see him, I just feel awkward. I can't get past what happened 3 years ago. Get the marriage certificate first, then build the feelings slowly. You two still care about each other, that's obvious. What obstacle is bigger than that? If your father hadn't forced you into that arranged marriage to save the company back then, you and Jaden would never have ended up like this. And besides, before graduation your father even sought Jaden out once. I don't know exactly what was said, but still. Darling, you weren't always like this. I still remember your glory as student council president, so dazzling, so fearless. Her nostalgic words pulled me back to our university days, to a time when I had once been radiant, bold, and unrestrained. Suddenly, I realized, the real wall between Jaden and me was never time, nor misunderstanding. It was insecurity. Back then, he was the one who felt unworthy. Now, it was me. We had been toyed with by fate, yet fate kept tying us together. In this moment, as I faced my heart honestly, I realized Annie had always been my shield, my excuse. When I chose to wait for Jaden beneath his company, my true reason had been simple, I just missed him. Today was my last day selling sausages. I set up once more near Jaden's office. This time, unlike before, my mood was light, I even hummed a little tune. A strange woman stopped at my stall, her eyes scrutinizing me from head to toe. I shifted uncomfortably under her stare. You're Chloe, aren't you? She asked. I nodded, puzzled. So you're the one who dumped my son? And now you're using a child to tie him into marriage? Look at yourself, what do you even have to offer him? The daughter of one of his company's directors used to chase him. Compared to her, what advantage do you have? I flashed her a sweet smile. Auntie, he loves me. She was about to retort, but her eyes flicked past me and her expression instantly turned fawning. Oh my, speak of the devil, Miss Perry, what a coincidence. I immediately understood, this must be the director's daughter she'd been referring to. Miss Perry looked at me knowingly, a sly smile tugging at her lips. Oh, so you're Jaden's fiancé. Wow, sis, you came to see Jaden? I'll help you calm him down. Oh, by the way, what brand of sunscreen do you use? The sun's brutal, but your skin is so fair. Let me introduce myself, I'm Sophia Perry. Her curious eyes roamed all over me, her poised, glamorous face paired with a non-stop, chattering mouth. Jaden's mother cut in. Miss Perry, weren't you chasing after Jaden before? Sophia Perry frowned, looking confused. Auntie, that's old news. How outdated can you be? Then, with a mischievous glint, she pulled me aside and showed me her phone. Look, girl, Jaden keeps your photo on his desk every day. I've been shipping you two for over a year now. When are you finally getting your happy ending? Want me to move the marriage bureau over here for you? I lifted my gaze and saw Jaden standing at a distance, waving at me. It's almost finished, I whispered. And then I ran toward him. The 20-year-old Jaden and the 26-year-old me met in the tunnel of time, he running toward the future, me toward the past. His shadow embraced me, and on tiptoe, I whispered into his ear, Hey, Jaden. I think I might actually miss you. A smile bloomed across his face as he pulled me along, and together we raced down the street. This time, the 26-year-old Jaden had finally found the 26-year-old Chloe. I refused to move into Jaden's home. So Jaden dragged his suitcase to my door, crouched down, and stared at me pitifully. All right. My place is small, but if you don't mind sleeping on the couch, then fine, come. He threw his hands up in celebration and lifted me, spinning us around in the living room. But within just a few days, my refrigerator suddenly died. Then it was the air conditioner, the water heater, and even the TV. I banged on the TV a few times, but it wouldn't respond. Jaden stood in the corner, covering his face and snickering, who knows at what. Jaden, are you out of your mind? Everything's breaking down, and you're laughing? Then just move in with me, Jaden said, eyes filled with hope. No, I rejected him flatly. Why not? He looked wounded, confused. We just started dating again. Can we please keep some distance? Jaden anxiously counted on his fingers. No, you've got it wrong. If you include before, we've been together for 384 days and 5 hours. How can that count as just starting to date? Jaden, you're so childish. Chloe, you're so heartless. I scrolled through my phone for the landlord's number, ready to ask about repairing the appliances. Behind me, Jaden muttered something under his breath, sneaky and guilty. A few days later, the landlord called. Chloe, about this apartment, my kid needs it for school. How about this, I'll refund you 3 months' deposit, and you move out this month. We'll part on good terms. I turned, and sure enough, Jaden was eavesdropping again. Jaden, was this you? What? He blinked innocently. Oh, pretending not to know, huh? I pretended to dial a realtor. Tim, do you have any school district apartments? I want to rent. Jaden snatched the phone from me, fumbling to hang up. Chloe, you're playing me. I stuck out my tongue at him, then dashed into my room to pack my bags. Except, the wardrobe was already empty, the bed stripped down to bare wooden slats. Hey, Jaden, did a thief break in this afternoon? I called from the bedroom doorway. Jaden stood at the door, Annie in one arm, holding out the other to me. Keys jingled brightly in his hand. Time to move. That night, half asleep, I reached out and felt someone beside me. Jaden, since when did you learn to sneak into my bed? He pulled me into his arms, his breath hot against my ear. Chloe, this room has really good soundproofing. So that's why you were in such a hurry to move. Jaden insisted on driving me to work. I righteously refused. Our offices are in opposite directions. I can just take my scooter. He pretended not to hear, grabbed my bag, took my hand, and marched forward without a word. At my office building, he lingered outside, eyes darting left and right, clearly reluctant to leave. You know, you look way too much like a stalker. I tried to push him off, but he stubbornly stayed at the entrance. From afar, James spotted us. He walked over, reaching out with a polite smile. Senior, welcome aboard. I extended my hand politely, but Jaden seized it tightly and grinned triumphantly at James. James froze, then silently retreated, vanishing into the elevator. Jaden, you've changed. I've changed into someone who loves you even more. His voice carried a hint of grievance. I pulled a document folder from my bag, waved it casually in front of him, and teased, I wonder if the marriage office is open at this hour. The gloom on Jaden's face vanished instantly. He slammed his foot on the accelerator, dust swirling in his wake. The weather was perfect that day. Auspicious for marriage.
Extra, Jaden's rambling thoughts. During the 3 years after Chloe and I broke up, I didn't actually live well at all. She's asked me countless times what those years were like, but I never answered. We both buried those 3 years of secrets, using the time afterward to heal our wounds. Her father came to me once. He told me Chloe was getting married, to some rich heir he'd carefully chosen. Only then could their family's company be saved. Only then could she keep living carefree. I didn't want to let go, but I didn't dare to fight for her either. Later, she left without saying goodbye. Quietly, without a sound. As if everything between us had only been a dream. At first, I would still ask around for news about her. I heard she was getting married. I told myself to bless her. After that, I avoided her news deliberately. I started working day and night, harder than anyone. Maybe she'd never come back. But I didn't want to miss even the tiniest chance. At a class reunion, I heard she hadn't actually married. I was so happy. But my damn mouth, always saying the wrong thing. I deserved the fallout. At that time, my career was just starting to take off. I thought, wait a little longer. When things are steadier, I'll go find her. But I was also scared, if I kept waiting, would I miss her again? And then I saw her, standing under my company building, holding a child. I can't even describe how happy I was. She said the child was mine. In that moment, I'd already started picturing our honeymoon destination. But she was so cold. Did that mean she didn't love me anymore? I was angry. I was hurt. I felt so wronged. And then my stupid mouth had to go and make it worse. The second I finished spitting out those harsh words, I wanted to slap myself. Later, she even went on a blind date, and got bullied. Arg, why does she give men like that a chance, but won't look at me? I searched the internet for all kinds of how to win back your wife guides. The #1 rule, speak up. Be shameless. So I skipped a few steps and went straight for the top. I proposed marriage. She rejected me. Of course, I must have rushed it. Then she went out eating with someone else again. Was it because I wasn't showing her enough enthusiasm? Damn that junior of mine. Why does he keep haunting her? What? She's even going to work at his company now? Spending time together every day, does that mean I've completely lost my chance? Wait, she agreed to let me stay at her place. But how could she live like this? So shabby. My heart hurt. I said a few words of concern. Crap, she thought I was mocking her. Still, her little tantrum was so cute, I couldn't help but love her more. If she's lashing out at me, it means she still cares. Seize the moment. I'll make it crystal clear, I want to marry her. Oops. Got thrown out. But I didn't leave. I camped at her door, guarding it. Heh, then she set up her sausage stall under my office again. That definitely means she was missing me. She still wouldn't move in with me, arg. Well, those appliances were trash anyway. A little tampering and poof, broken. Heh. Memorized the landlord's number, just in case. Yes. We moved house. Happy. We're married. So happy. We're married.